Thank you. Okay, does anyone have any questions or we can chit chat about it after to talk specifics if you have any? Okay, so tonight is a bit of a joint event with Prairie Conservation Action Plan, or PCAP, as it's known, and Caitlin Rose is here with us tonight, helping us out with the evening, and Shirley Bartz is going to talk about loggerhead shrikes, and it's part of the PCAP's Native Prairie Speakers Series. So Caitlin Rose is here to introduce Shirley.
Thank you, Caitlin. As Caitlin said, I'm with Prairie Conservation Action Plan, and we bring together 30 different partners across Saskatchewan, environmental and agricultural organizations, and we believe that specific risk in agriculture controls it. We try to host events about species at risk down in southwest Saskatchewan, so this is one of many events going on. We're also a subcommittee of the Saskatchewan Stockholders Association. We've heard them before in 2000. That's kind of our parent organization. So we do a speaker series every month. Often it's a webinar. You can watch from any location or an in-person presentation. And I'd just like to mention that if you're in the East End area, August 15th, we'll be having a presentation about bats. And that's by Dr. Jeff Lane from the University of Saskatchewan. So it's really interesting. And then we also have a presentation going on. It's a webinar you can watch from anywhere about mammal monitoring in Alberta, and that's by the Alberta Biodiversity Monitoring Institute. So you learn all about the big grazers and small mammals and everything. It should be really neat. For more information about those, you can check out the PCAP website. And I'd also like to note that funding for today's presentation has been given by Environment and Climate Change Canada, as well as SaskPower. And a bit about our presenter today, Shirley. I've known Shirley for a few years, and I found her bio on the Nature Saskatchewan website. It was full of fun information I didn't know. So Shirley is actually born far on the prairies, and whether she was backpacking in the Sierra Nevada mountains, cross-country skiing in the Los Padres National Forest, or rock hopping in the roots of Joshua Tree, Shirley was always watching birds, chasing lizards, staring at bugs, and tracking mammals. Following her passion for studying living things, Shirley completed a Bachelor of Science in Wildlife Management, worked as a field biologist for 10 years, and then completed a Master's of Science in Biology. And shortly after that, she moved to Winnipeg and soon settled outside of Regina. And in the 13 years that she's been living in the prairies, she's found the rolling grasslands as comforting as the sage and charcoal of her native southwestern United States, and takes a similar joy in feeling small under the prairie sky as she did on the shores of the Pacific Ocean. Shirley delights in sharing her passion for stewardship of rare species and the reciprocal learning about conservation and restoration of native prairie ecosystems. So with that, I'll pass over to you, Shirley.
Can you hear me? And do I really have? Well, okay. I think that's the speaker shouting in my ears. Okay. Is that okay? Can you hear me, or should I can speak into this? All right. I'm going to speak into this. I'm getting a nudge. Thank you, Caitlin. That was a really nice introduction. I appreciate it. Okay. So, yeah, I grew up a long way from here, and I'm happy to be here. Really happy to be here. Whenever anyone hears that I grew up in Southern California, they're like, why did you ever come here? And I said, well, people are nice here. They're not where I grew up. That's okay. It's beautiful there. It's beautiful here. So I'm going to be talking about butcher birds and stewards of Saskatchewan. And I just want to let anyone know that if you have a question while I'm talking, interrupt me. I'm happy and fine with interruptions, and I may say something wrong, or I may say something unclearly, or you may think, say that again? And I want to be able to answer that question for you. So, take it away. So, I have a couple of slides here in the beginning that Josh and Grace and Michelle went through already, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. Thank you guys, I appreciate that. I'm just going to kind of nod to Caitlin and point out a couple of things here. Oh, sorry, yes. I'm just going to hold it right here. I tend to gesticulate. I'm not Italian, but I tend to like my hands. Okay, so this is our really brief history. The thing I want you to take away from here is that we have been around since the early 1950s, late 1940s. And we started as a nature society. And that's a really rare thing these days, people watching natural systems and wild animals just for the joy of understanding their local ecosystems. And I am extremely happy to be a part of Nature Sask because I get to do the kinds of stuff that I originally learned about in my schooling and thought, wow, there's no funding to be a naturalist. But there is. So I'm really happy to be doing it. Okay. So we've got a number of services that we provide. We've got some wonderful publications, and we provide field trips, and we've got the Bartz Field Graduate Scholarship that we help folks out with. And we've got many of these publications are described in detail on our website. So if you have some questions about what is available for you in terms of published resources, check out our website or go ahead and call us and we can talk to you about them. Okay, so as well as the programs that were mentioned by our folks before me, we also have a bird banding station at Last Mountain Lake called the Last Mountain Bird Observatory. And we also have IBAs, oh my goodness, I'm acronym challenged, forgive me, what's IPPC?
International Piping Plover Census.
Thank you, the International Piping Plover Census, which happens, I think, every 5 years, right? It last happened in 2016. We also do a lot of citizen science, and that is the core reason that you guys are here, because you are our citizens conducting our science for us, just by watching and listening for the species at risk that you are stewards of. We've got the Stewards of Saskatchewan banner programs that were also covered before I got up here to talk, so I'm not going to go over them too much. This is a really cool slide because it tells you exactly how long each of these programs has been up and operational. And you can see Operation Burrowing Owl is the one that's been happening the longest. And we've just most recently added the Stewards of Saskatchewan with all of the other species at risk that Josh was describing. Okay, so conservation ambassadors refers to, has anyone heard of an umbrella species? A species that if we conserve it or if we take care of it, there are a bunch of other species that use the same habitat or similar habitat. And so if we take care of burrowing owls and piping plovers and loggerhead shrikes and some of our rare plants, we are also conserving other species that use similar habitat. And that makes it, easy for us to focus on these ambassadors and thereby also conserve those other species that use similar habitat. Okay, so on to our picture bird. It's Lanius ludovicanus. Is that how you guys say it? I find that people pronounce Latin differently. Okay, no one pronounces Latin. Okay. I have a husband that rattles those names off, and I always say, "Oh, Andy, you're just showing off your pointy head." So I was just showing off my pointy head. Okay, speaking of pointy heads. Loggerhead shrikes are called loggerheads because they have a block-shaped head. If you've ever seen one in silhouette, you'll notice that they don't have a delicate little bulb of a head. It's a big square hunk of a head, and that's where loggerhead comes from. The shrike refers to its high-pitched, screaming, shrieking noise that we hear a lot these days when it's either chasing off a predator or its babies are talking to the parents and saying, and I'm gonna play its song just in a little while. I think there's another slide that refers to that, and I'm gonna hold the microphone up to it, and y'all get to hear that. It has a song as well as a shriek, and we need to give that a little airtime. So it has a bunch of other names because it is kind of conspicuous, but it's called a butcher bird. It's called a banded bird because it wears that mask. And it's also called a thorn bird because in its natural habitat, that's where it puts its prey. It impales its prey on thorns and barbed wire. Okay, so it is slightly smaller than a robin, about 9 inches in length with a 12-inch wingspan, and it weighs about as much as, well, I was going to say a shot glass, but that's a little incriminating. It doesn't weigh very much at all. Birds have hollow bones. They're lightweight. And this bird carries items that are 3 times its own body weight, which is a lot. So it has to not weigh too much in order to be able to fly itself around, and it helps to not weigh much to carry all of that, those heavy prey items. Okay, so how many of you have seen a loggerhead shrike? Okay. I probably should have asked how many haven't, because that was most of you, and I just wanted to be able to make eye contact with the folks who haven't. They are conspicuous birds. They're conspicuous for their call, but they're also conspicuous because they are black and white. And that's kind of that's a color pattern that our eyes see just as other animals. As an animal, we are keyed into their flashing white spots on their black wings. It's got a hooked beak, which is also kind of strange to see on a songbird. This is a songbird. It is not a hawk, but it has a beak like a hawk. It does not have feet like a hawk. It's just got little bird feet. So it's got that black eye mask. It has a black and white color pattern on its wings and its tail. And the females and the males and the juveniles all look alike. Some birds have what we call sexual dimorphism. The females look different from the males. And sometimes babies look different from adults. These guys are not. Sometimes it's hard to tell if you're seeing babies or if you're seeing adults. And one of the ways to do that is the babies look really fluffy right now. And the adults are very sleek. They look like they're dressed to the nines and ready to go to the ball in their tucks and tails. And these birds, when they're babies, look kind of fluffy and unkempt, like they've just, gotten a bunch of air blown up into their feathers and they're kind of sticking out here and there. Okay, so here's some pictures of what I've just been describing. And I don't think we have a baby there, but we're going to see some a little later on. Oh, that one might have a baby. Another thing that distinguishes the babies is that when they're really young, they have almost no tail. Their tail feathers are really short. So if you see a bird that looks like it's got no tail and you're thinking, good God, something tore its tail off, might be a baby, or it might have lost its tail. I think we're going to have some pictures a little later on with its wings outstretched so you can see that black and white pattern there. There. This is actually the image that is on our Shrubs for Shrikes sign. It's a beautiful sign, really lovely. And there, just below it, is a picture of one of the adults captured flying there. So, there we go. These are some of, we're going to go through a couple of the species that are often mistaken for being shrikes. This one gets me sometimes. This is an eastern kingbird. It has a dark gray back, and it does not have, it has a black cap and a black tail with a white tip. It does not have those white spots when it flies, and it's not quite as brilliantly white as the shrike's white parts are. The western kingbird may sometimes be mistaken for a shrike because both of the kingbirds, they'll perch at the top of a shrub on those dead twigs, and they'll be watching for insects. They do something called hopping. They fly around and they catch insects on the wing, which shrikes will also do. But these guys, they don't have the same blocky head. You can kind of see how it's got that rounded little bulb of a head like other songbirds. And this one has a yellow belly. But in silhouette, you might be a bit confused, and you might be a bit confused just because it sits in the same place as a shrike and hunts kind of in the same way that a shrike hunts. Okay, the northern shrike is a bird that looks very similar to the loggerhead shrike, but the northern shrike breeds in the north, and it passes through here. So if you see a northern shrike, it will probably be, I'm going to get this wrong, in May? April, May. Okay, so it will be during migration when the other birds are coming through, birds that we don't see nesting here, and it may potentially overlap with the loggerhead shrike. The loggerhead shrike might arrive around the same time, but it will be the loggerhead shrike that stays, and the northern shrike will move on. So you can kind of see, especially in the middle picture here, it's got kind of a barring, or like a houndstooth pattern across its breast, and it's not necessarily as small as a northern or loggerhead shrike. These are things that are going to be hard to tell unless you see them side by side. So it's going to be something that you need to watch for in terms of timing. If you see this bird kind of early in the season during migration, you got to kind of look very carefully at it through your binoculars for that barring on the chest. Okay, habitat. So, sorry guys, I got a bacon bit down my throat probably earlier. It was terrible. Sorry. All right, I'm going to go through each of these because this picture was developed in a workshop where the experts came and they all sat around and talked about loggerhead shrikes all day long. I was there. It was intense. And Heather Pecan was one of the officiating hosts of that. She was gathering a bunch of data and she developed this image. But there was a lot of talk and they distilled what these birds need in their habitat. So I'm going to go through each point because it's pretty specific. They prefer open grasslands with scattered shrubs and trees. So you can't have too many shrubs. These guys like to have them kind of scattered in open grasslands. They prefer to nest in thorny shrubs about 1 to 2 meters above the ground. They hunt from perches on prominent dead branches, poles, or abandoned buildings. They avoid the heavily grazed sites due to lack of prey, such as in such areas. Okay, so if something's really, really short, they're not going to have as many prey items available there. They prefer the prey found in ungrazed or lightly grazed grasslands or riparian zones. Does everyone know what a riparian zone is? The place next to a creek or a river or water body where you'll often get a lot more lush growth. They'll hunt prey in the ditches and abandoned farm fields, and there's some collision danger because these are birds that prefer the edges of habitats. There's kind of a higher density of potential prey available where a bunch of different habitats come together. And in those edges, if you happen to have a bush or a post or something that those shrikes can hunt from, they can hunt the type of animals that are in the grasses and the type of animals that are in the shrubs and the type of animals that are in the crop edges. Grasshoppers are there, and they'll hunt any animal they can find in a farmyard. But they like to be able to observe a variety of different habitats, and where those come together, your shrike is going to try to hunt. Again, they prefer thorny shrubs like buffaloberry and hawthorn for nesting and feeding. They need those thorns because that's where they impale their prey. Here's some examples of what their shrub habitat looks like. Okay, their habitat includes a preference for open areas for hunting. I mentioned before that they nest in thorny shrubs, but they also nest in dense bushy trees, like shelter belts. They like those Paragana shelter belts. And they'll sometimes even nest in spruce. We have a shrike pair that has typically nested in Regina in these scrubby little shrub trees on the edges of some fallow fields. And they've been really doing well there until one of those fallow fields was developed into a grocery store. So they're frequently found in shelter belts, farmyards, occupied or abandoned, cemeteries, and golf courses. So here are some examples of what some of those habitats look like in pasture or cropland. Oh, sorry, go back. Did you all see the shrike sitting on the post right here? There's one there. There's a shrike right there as well. So here's another round of examples. You can kind of see you've got dense shrubs in there, and you've also got those bare, dead branches way up at the top, and that's where the shrikes will be sitting. So as you drive, or if you're looking for them, look for those bare branches. So here are some abandoned farmyards, and you can kind of see those shrubs are next to a road where they might find snakes, where they might find grasshoppers. They're next to a farmyard where they might find voles or mice. And they're also next to some grassy pasture or hay where they're going to find the type of animals like the voles or the meadow mice that live in that tall grass. And they like cemeteries. They like cemeteries because there are all kinds of perches. They usually have a fence around them, or the caragana shrubs. And there's all kinds of, sometimes there are flowers, and there are all kinds of bugs that come in there to nectar off of those flowers. And usually those cemeteries are surrounded by a field, and they can find mice and voles and snakes in the fields around them. So, it's important to understand their behavior so that you can kind of figure out where they are in their life cycle when you see them. They are a sit and wait predator, a little bit like a hawk. They'll sit and they will visually scan an area until they see a bug moving around or a mouse moving around or another bird moving around. They'll perch on utility wires, barbed wire fence posts, and the tips of branches like we were seeing in some of those other photos. Okay, so I've mentioned this. They have a hawk-like beak, but they also have those little songbird feet. And so the reason they're known as a butcher bird is because they impale their prey and hang it like a piece of meat at a butcher shop. Their prey can include insects and mammals and birds and reptiles. They have a vast variety of things that they'll eat. And they can impale their prey on thorns or barbed wire fences, or sometimes they'll just wedge them into a Y between some branches. Here's an example. Now things are going to get a little bit intense. So that's a vole. You can tell it's a vole, by the way, because it has a short, stubby little tail. A mouse has a much longer tail. And I think I heard you were saying, weren't you, that you saw snakes, you guys in the back? She's got pictures of this. Like, this happens. This isn't just amazing photos that we have. This is something that actually happens. So they'll catch snakes. And they'll catch bugs and frogs. Grasshoppers, bumblebees. And sometimes they'll catch other birds. So we had to send this photo around. Well, this is a different photo, but it looks very similar with those yellow legs. So we found, Caitlin and I were doing a shrike survey, and we found a chick, headless also, with these bright yellow legs, and we thought, what the heck is that? It's hard to tell sometimes because you don't have a head and you can't see what the beak is and you can't get an idea of what kind of a bird it was. But we had some folks look at it, and they said they thought it was probably a sharp-tailed grouse chick. So anything small enough for these birds to grab, they will grab. This is a gopher head. I don't think that a shrike killed a gopher, but cars kill gophers. And if there's a tasty little morsel on the road, these birds are not above grabbing it and sticking it on the barbed wire fence. Anyone want this on a sign? Okay, so I've kind of alluded to when they arrive during the same time as the northern shrike, but these guys stick around and they breed here. So the males will arrive and they'll set up a territory to attract females, and they'll do that by singing and just decking out the local thorns and barbed wire fences with all kinds of prey to show those females what a wonderful provider they are. And they'll sing, okay, maybe this is where I will play a song, because shrikes, as I mentioned, have a song as well as that shrieky, shrieking call. They actually have a lovely song. Here we go. Wait, I have to turn my volume on. Okay. So we'll turn it all the way up. Push play. Hear that? fuzzy, a bit more harsh, like what we expect from a shrike. And here's that call that we know so well. Here's that call. Okay, fine, I'll try it. There. So I just want to mention to you that the calls I got here are not from an app. They're just from a website called the Cornell University All About Birds website. And many of you may have heard about the Merlin bird app, which will help you find out what kind of bird you're seeing. Merlin was designed by Cornell, and the website has not just what the birds look like, and not just their songs, but all their life history, and where they breed, and how they breed, and what they eat, and what species can be confused with the species that you're looking at. So I encourage you all to check that out. It's a really cool website. Okay, so the males sing, they inhale prey. They often return to the same territory year after year. They may not necessarily use the same nest, but they will be in the same area, general area. And that area is about 6 hectares, or 15 acres, to 25 hectares, or 62 acres. So both the male and the female make the nest together around mid-May. And the nest is kind of bulky. It's shaped like a cup, like most bird nests when you think of a bird nest. It's got flowering plants and grass and cattle and horsehair in it. It's usually built right about chest high, and it's strongly defended by the adults. That's another time you'll hear that shriek, is if the adults have a crow or a magpie or a human getting too close to their nest. They'll come out and shriek at them and dive bomb them. So here's an example of what one of those nests looks like. And we have a couple more. Yeah. So they don't always nest in a tree or a shrub. They can nest in a brush pile, and they can nest in barbed wire, old barbed wire snarl. They'll like to nest in that. It's a hard place for a raccoon or another bird to get into. Okay, so eggs and incubation. Incubation means that the female is sitting on those eggs and keeping them warm and dry. A female can lay 5 to 8 eggs in late May. The eggs are laid 1 per day, so the chicks will hatch 1 and then another on different days. The eggs are kind of a grayish buff color with some speckling and a lot more of that speckling on one end. And the female will incubate those eggs for 15 to 17 days. And then while she's sitting on those eggs, the male will bring her food. And I just want to make a note here. We are describing nests and what eggs look like, but we don't need to encourage you to get in there and look in on the nest. That can be disruptive to the birds, and we don't want to do that. If you've got one of those fabulous high-powered camera lenses and you can view them from a distance and kind of spy on them without them feeling disturbed, that's great. So here's a close-up of those eggs, and you can kind of see how the speckling is more dense on one end than the other. So the chicks hatch around mid-June, and the female sits with those young for the first 4 or 5 days, and she kind of keeps them warm because they're born bald and blind. And the nestlings stay in the nest for about 17 to 18 days. That's the nestling phase. And then the parents will be feeding them that whole time, and it's a great time to look for the adults because they're moving a lot. They're just like the human parent, racing around, getting food for their baby. I have to remind you that these guys eat almost all of the critters that we don't necessarily like to have in our farmyards. So snakes and mice and grasshoppers they're going to take quite a hit from a nesting pair of shrikes. This is what the babies look like when they first come out. As I said, they are naked. Poor little guys. She's got to sit on them, keep them warm. Imagine it raining on something like that. And then they feather out a little bit. These guys are covered in pin feathers. And Caitlin likes to say that they remind her of little old men. Go ahead. And as soon as they can, they start opening their mouths and begging for food. So it's important for these nestlings to be kind of camouflaged in their nest. And when their mouths are not open, they look kind of gray. They look like a pile of leaves in a nest. When their parent comes by, they do not want to be mistaken for a leaf. They open these mouths wide, and it's kind of hard to miss them. You know, they've got yellow lipstick and a bright red throat, and it's sort of begging for a bud, don't you think? Then they get a little bigger, and they've got these guys are beginning to get to the fledgling stage, which means they've got flight feathers, they've got body feathers, they're kind of getting ready to test out their wings. So the parents continue to feed the fledglings after they leave the nest. And the chicks weigh as much as an adult in about 2 weeks. The family group will stick together for about 2 weeks after fledging. So here's some images of what those babies look like when they're begging and their parents are just exhausted. You know, they're like, I just got you a grasshopper. You want another one? So here they are, begging and screeching and screaming and being very conspicuous. Has anyone seen fledglings yet? Okay, the season started kind of late, so maybe you'll see them. So this is a great picture. These are great pictures. You can kind of see that fluffy, unkempt look, like the wind's gotten blown into their feathers. And you can see those short tails. This one doesn't have this post. A bird needs a tail to fly, just like an airplane. Do you think that bird can fly? It'll jump off that post and land on the ground. And that's okay. The parents will feed it on the ground. They're loud babies. We don't need to pick up those babies and do anything with them. You just leave them alone. Let the bird,